Hello and welcome. We postponed this meeting. We meant to do it as a Facebook Live, so I do apologise for the fact that that didn't happen. My name is Becky Walsh. I'm here for Weston-super-Mare Town Council as part of our climate change commitment. We are interviewing experts and interesting people and local people about what they're doing about climate change. And there she is, or there she is. You can never tell with these things. It's Zoom. She could be up, she could be down, but she's here. And Laura is from the Community Scrapstore. We did this in rehearsals and I could never get it right. I say we rehearsed this, we didn't, but it sounds good, doesn't it? So Laura is here from the Community Scrapstore. Got it right. Yay. And she's got some exciting news. So tell us your news. What's going on?
Yes, so we're moving the scrap store just up the road from where we currently are on Winterstoke Road, so remaining on Winterstoke Road. But it's a great time to tell everybody that we will have a new, bigger home. And it's 66 Gazelle Road, so just behind Bradford's on Winterstoke Road.
Yeah, and you're going to remember that, you know, gazelle. Yeah, that's good. Yes, that's all right. Leaping like a gazelle, and I'm sure that you will be. So tell us about the store. Like, what is it? Because it's surprising. Either you really know about it or you really don't. And I think it's a good thing for both businesses and also people with kids to know, and people who are a little bit on the arty side. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so scrap store, there is scrap stores all across the country, and they're all working within their local areas to make use of all the business waste that would normally end up in landfill. And there is a huge amount of it. And so the idea is that businesses can donate it to us if it's reusable. We only accept clean, new products. So if there was food containers, for example, they're only ever brand new, never been filled with a product straight from the manufacturer. But often things like that, they'll produce a huge amount of containers, say with a promotional detail on the side, that will then not have any use further on. So that would end up in landfill. And so we're able to take it in, and then we can supply members with it for all sorts of uses. We've got lots of schools and nurseries and local families that join up to just make use of the stuff. A lot of people do creative activities with it, but some of the items can be used as they were originally intended, like a container, but obviously that container can also be a robot's head or whatever you want it to be. Yeah. But it's all about reusing up all the resources that are out there already, and at an affordable price. So you can join the scrap store for a minimal fee, and it's just a donation when you come in for resources. So it makes it affordable for everybody.
So, like, if I was somebody who happened to have just had their kitchen done and ended up with a load of tiles left over, is that the kind of thing that you would want, because people could make mosaics out of it?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, we do deal mainly with businesses because of the large quantities and the costs involved in going out to collect those, for example. But quite a few individuals now, local individuals who know us, will bring in stuff that they no longer need. And yes, of course, I mean, tiles are a great example because they're often in and out just as fast. Yes.
Yeah, because it's a great thing to be. I love it. I love doing mosaics. So that is something that I would always be like, kind of like, oh, good, don't waste that. You know, that and broken stained glass and all sorts of bits. Not something for the kids. So whose idea was this off the get-go? So you said that there's lots of them all over the country. Was that somebody local or not local? Someone from somewhere else?
I think Bristol is one of the oldest ones, actually, and we were originally part of Bristol store, but now the needs of North Somerset are different to Bristol because we're different areas. So having our separate store means we are catering more to the market in Weston, which is what we need to do, really, to be able to use up the resources. But the benefit of having them all around the country, even though they're all independent, we meet once every couple of months to swap resources, so that it means that we don't all end up with just the same things over and over, because there'll be items that are produced in this area that the offcut will get month after month, and as much as we can use it up, there's only so much we need. But where another area won't have those items, but we can exchange those, for example, for what we did an exchange last week, where we have exchanged all the threads and cottons and things that we picked up from Clark's in Somerset. We've exchanged them for boxes of elastic and all sorts of other things from another scrap store in Dorset. So yes, it's about moving it around the country and getting it used up in the most efficient way. Yeah.
Brilliant idea. That makes sense. So how do you reach out to the businesses and let them know that you're there, and what sort of businesses are you looking to kind of connect with?
Well, we're always on the lookout for local printers, and I mean, vinyl and vinyl offcuts are always a loved resource by schools and nurseries, and for all sorts of other people. But paper, card, and anyone who produces anything like that, we're always desperate for that. So that's a good one to remind local companies about. And obviously we can arrange collection, but if they can drop it into us, that's ideal. And in some ways that sometimes helps them to get some space freed up in their factory. But yes, I mean, I would encourage anyone to get in touch with us via the email address, and ask us if we could make use of something rather than binning it, because I mean, we save them money on waste costs then, and some of the companies really enjoy seeing their waste, as it was, being used in the local community, because ultimately it's their families and their employees' families that benefit from it as well.
Well, absolutely. And also we know like things going into landfill cost the taxpayer. So that's quite a serious thing. So actually reusing it. And also we don't want it in landfill because, you know, and there's only so much of things that you can kind of go, well, I'll put it in the recycling, because not everything completely gets recycled. So tell us about the families that make use of the scrap store. What do they tend to kind of like, it feels like, to be honest, it feels like it would be more fun than going for Toys R Us.
It's so much more fun.
I don't know if Toys R Us are even open anymore, but I remember kind of kids just, that would be a day trip, just wandering around Toys R Us and you'd come out with an empty wallet. But so I think this sounds like going to the most intensely colossal, imaginative toy shop. So do people just kind of come and browse sometimes?
Absolutely, for hours. Yes. And we don't mind that. I mean, and especially on a Saturday, we really enjoy having the families in. It's very much more families on a weekend. And yes, I mean, as you can imagine, they use it for all sorts. Children have got such imaginations. They won't look at a product and know what it is, for example, or what it was. So they will only see what it could be, which opens up a whole world of possibilities. And I, after all these years of being here, I'm still surprised on a weekly basis what they come up with. It's great fun.
Things. Do you get sent photos?
Oh yes, loads. Yes, I will have to share some. But yes, there's loads on our Facebook page as well. We always try and share what people have created. I mean, there's one chap, a local chap in lockdown, who has taught himself to sew, and he has made his wife the most elaborate dresses that I am ever so envious of, all from fabric from the scrap store. And I'm amazed, and he's absolutely loved that he's been able to afford this fabric, afford to have a go at this new, well, I can't say a hobby because it's almost professional level. He's learned a new skill there. It's amazing, and he's been able to protect that with the scrap.
So he's literally got scrap material, and then is he sewing by hand, or has he got himself?
No, it's the patterns from here as well, and he's machined all these dresses. Yeah.
Extraordinarily brilliant. I love it. That's such a cool thing. I love that. And have you seen any other hobbies kind of like spring up around this lockdown time that people have kind of told you about?
I think it's quite funny that everyone has come back in afterwards, very keen to get their stash up to a normal level, as they would call it. I think all creative people tend to have a stash at home somewhere of things that they enjoy. But the benefit to scrap store is you can have a go at different stuff as well, because it will just depend on what's available. You can't always guarantee that we'll have the same thing twice. So sometimes you have to take it while it's there. But yes, I mean, there's been all sorts of projects on the go. I'm trying to think now. I mean, for example, have been making giant wavy men in lockdown just because. Yes, well, they did say you weren't allowed new signs outside our new premises, so I thought I would try and find a way around that. So I've created an inflatable wavy man for the outside. We'll see how that works. But,
yeah, that sounds great. I was just thinking, because I wonder if people are kind of like thinking, you know, this winter maybe people are kind of thinking, I'd really like to, if we're all going to be stuck indoors again, who knows what's going to happen, thinking of a new hobby and want to get their stash sorted. So what was the need for the new store? Was it just simply that you needed a bigger space for popularity, or what was it?
Yes, I mean, we've been looking to expand for quite a while. I don't think it will matter what size we get, we could fill it quite quickly. And that just shows the quantity of waste that is generated. And we are only dealing with a fraction of it. I must admit, when we went to the swap with the other scrap stores, we did it in Bristol Scrap Store's car park, and there were 12 other stores. And when 12 stores empty a lorry load each into the middle of the car park, which is how it's done, and then they just take whatever they like, it's very fun. They blow a whistle, they say go, and you just grab what you want. But it does put it in perspective of how much, and when we're only dealing with a fraction of that, it's quite sickening actually, the amount of products that are thrown away. So yeah, it's just using it up. And I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought there.
No, you had finished. You tied it off absolutely perfectly. I think you know, I've worked for organisations, and in fact, I used to work in theatre as a stage manager, and you would have at the end of a show a skip outside, and a lot of the stuff would go into storage, but a lot of it would go just into a skip. And I'm quite short, and I have been known to be held by my ankles. And the last time this happened in a theatre environment was me getting 6 different coloured pairs of 1970s. I'm telling you, the heel was this high, 1970s glitter boots in 5 colours. In blue, purple, red, from a show called Saucy Jack and the Space Vixens. And I was they're not being chucked out, I'm having them. I was going, get me ankles, I'm going in. And anyone who has kind of like, I'm terrible for it, but like looking in people's skips to see if they need anything, or even I had to go to the tip with something, and there were all of these beautiful little pots that were plant pots, that had been thrown into the skip, and I'm like, but these are still usable. And I find, like, anytime that I do go to the skip, I find myself being very brokenhearted by the fact that things that look perfectly good to me are just being lobbed out. And one of the things that my particular part of Weston where I live, people put things that they no longer want on the wall with the word free on it. And, you know, when I lived in San Francisco, I furnished an entire room like that. I mean, it was a little bit dubious as to whether or not the futon had got dog. No, I don't think it had, but you know, the old cocked leg. But I think that this is something that we really need to consider. You know, maybe if the second-hand shops are overflowing, you know, because lots of people have decided that they don't want to live such a cluttered life, because we're understanding the mental health impacts of actually living within too much stuff, and actually that can be quite stressful. But then, so everyone's been having this clear out and kind of going to the second-hand shops whilst they've had the opportunity during these lockdown times. Second-hand shops are now bulging, and then the rest of us are kind of like putting it out on our wall. And then maybe this is also an opportunity for people to think, well, actually, could this go to the scrap store?
Absolutely.
Certainly balls and balls and balls and balls of wool, you know, that's another thing that happens, isn't it? I'm going to take up knitting. Oh, I like that, I like that, I like that, I like that, tick tick tick, I'm rubbish at knitting. And what do we do with all of this lovely wool?
Absolutely. And we've got lots of members who do that, and once they are members and they can see the kind of stuff that we have in, they often keep an eye out for us as well. I mean, one lady this morning has I can't show you because I haven't got it out at the moment, but she has brought in what she has found on Facebook that someone was giving away, and it's a 3D freestanding skeleton with all the body parts that go together. It's quite incredible, and I love that she has picked that up for us today and brought it in, which is fantastic.
That is completely fantastic. I absolutely love that. That's waiting to end up in a chiropractor's, osteopaths, or a doctor's, really, isn't it?
It was quite funny. I've just been picking body parts off the floor. It didn't look good for the last few customers today. But yes, as they're picking up the liver and the kidneys that have fallen out. But yes, that would be great. I'm sure someone enjoy. Or I mean, that would go to a nursery or a school or somewhere, and someone else will make use of it. I think that's the issue, though. It doesn't matter how big our new space is, there will always be more. And I know the council are looking very much more at reuse at the moment, which is great. I know the targets, though, are very much about domestic waste as opposed to business. That's all done more on a national level rather than locally. But I think I know how much is, and everyone who's involved in any business will know the quantities that are that definitely, because we cannot continue to produce new, can we, when we are literally going to run out of room.
No, I've been one of the curators for TEDx Bristol, pulling together TED
Oh, I
speakers.
think my same.
That's all right. We caught most of what you said. We understood you, so that's okay. Don't worry. But I've been a speaker creator for TEDx Bristol, and one of the speakers who put in a proposal was very much talking about the fact that, when people rip out a shop, they literally rip out the shop and just chuck it all. And very little of that actually gets reused. And I mean, just even from table desks, but also partitions and plate and things that are on walls and things like that. And because it seems to be less, there isn't the time to kind of work out where to recycle these things, that they just get ripped out and immediately chucked into landfill. And I think that that's a very tricky thing. And, I just had my kitchen ripped out, and rather than getting rid of a perfectly good kitchen, I put it on Facebook for free, and someone dismantled the entire kitchen and took it to Taunton, where they're setting up a new cafe, a new vegan cafe. And that was great, because it didn't end up, it was a perfectly good kitchen, I just hated it, but it didn't end up in landfill. It actually got used by somebody who was actually starting up a new business. And I think it's a real shame that a lot of businesses are just thinking of the time and therefore the cost implication, and not the implication to the planet. And maybe what you're doing is actually going to be able to help businesses think it's not just about your paper clips and what's going in your drawers and all of that kind of stuff, but it's also about the actual installation of the business itself. How could that be reused and recycled?
Absolutely.
Instead of making it all from scratch, because what's the point, really?
Absolutely. And I mean, our move to the new site, it's a little bit bare bones at the moment. It is literally some walls and a warehouse, but the contents will mainly be made from the resources we've got. I mean, we've recently sourced the Cabot Circus in Bristol was throwing away the most enormous notice boards, public notice boards with windows on the front. So we have got 4 of them sat here next to me. They're enormous, but they will be fantastic for the new building. And as you say, it's things like that. When we went to view the building, for example, yesterday, just to do the final measurements, there were tables in the factory next door that were being put out for waste. So it will be dragged in next week.
I love it.
But yes, I mean, it's that's the thing, isn't it? It's about creating it without costing a fortune.
I love that, Laura. That's brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. Keep up the good work, and best of luck with the move.
Yes, thank you. And yes, to just encourage people to keep an eye on Facebook, and then we will update as we move, and the dates and everything.
Great. I shall link your Facebook page and also the website so that people can find
you.
No problem.
Okay.
Thanks so much for your time, Laura. Take care. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.